So linear functions or linear equations can have as many operations in there as is desired, and they can also have as many variables as desired. But in the case that we're going to look at, we're only going to look at one variable that we're trying to solve for, trying to make it a little bit simpler, and we're usually not going to have too many operations. Up until this point, we have just had one operation that we're trying to do. So we'll either be adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, squaring, or square rooting. Those are the operations that we've done so far. Now we're going to start taking a look at when there could be multiple operations being applied. So in a linear function, two or more operations could be applied to one side of the equation. Now for this lesson, again, we're just going to look at simplifying one side of the equation. A little bit later on, we're going to start taking a look at what happens if we have to do both sides of the equation, and we have to do certain things on both sides to try to isolate certain variables. Okay, so we could have two or more operations which are applied to an equation to solve for a dependent variable. Usually that is y, but it's always isolated variables. So to solve for that, there's always, there could be more than one operation. When solving for a dependent variable, and dependent variables are y, it's one that's all by itself, okay, order of operations needs to be followed. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to solve for a couple questions where we're going to be given the independent variable, or the one that's kind of buried, or the one that isn't isolated, and we want to solve for the isolated variable. So the first one here, we're given the equation y is equal to 3x plus 3, and we're going to insert a value of x into that equation. So in the first one here, we're told that x is 2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to insert 2 into this equation, and then we're going to solve for y. So in this case here, we have 3, and then we're going to put 2 in there, and then we're going to add 3 onto the end there. Now, order of operations needs to be applied when we're doing these types of questions. So the first thing that we're going to do is look for brackets, then we'll look for exponents, and then we'll look for multiplying and dividing. Well, here we have some multiplying and dividing. So here we have 3 multiplied by 2, okay? And when we do 3 times 2, it's going to simplify this a little bit. 3 times 2 is 6. So it's going to be y is equal to 6 plus 3. And once we have that, then we do our last step, which is adding. And now we just do 6 plus 3, and so y is equal to 9. So we know that when x is 2, y is 9. If we're given a different x value, we're going to get a different value of y. And let's take a look at an example of that. We're given x is -4. Now we're going to plug -4 into our equation. So y is equal to 3, and then we put -4 into here. Whoops. I was a little eager with those 4s already. Plus 3. Now here, it's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to start off by, again, multiplying. Okay, it's going to be a different answer, and that's really the only difference. The process that we go through is still the same. We still multiply first. So we still do 3 times -4. But in this case now, it's going to be -12, and then we're going to add 3. Okay, so we're still going to add 3 afterwards. And when we add 3 to -12, this is -9. And so that would become our final answer. So you'll notice that when x is 2, we get +9. When it's -4, we get -9. Just so happened that they were opposites. I'm guessing this next one will probably not be like that. Okay, I'm pretty sure it won't be like that. The last one here, we're given a decimal. Again, that works exactly the same as with everything else. We plug the decimal into the equation. 3 times 0.6 plus 3. But we insert the variable that we're given. So we're given x, we insert it into our equation. Now 3 times 0.6 is 1.8. And again, with it being a decimal, if you want to use a calculator, you can. You might be able to do it without. You might need to use a calculator for that. And when we add that together, we get 1.8 plus 3, and that is 4.8. So when our x value is 0.6, our y value is 4.8. You'll notice that for each unique x value, we get a unique y value. Okay, so we get a unique y value. Now, and let me just change my color here. If the y is given, the x value needs to be isolated to solve. So if we're given our value of y, we need to isolate x in order to solve for the equation. Okay, we need to isolate x in order to solve for the equation. So this first one here, we are told that we're given that y is equal to negative 4x plus or minus 2. We want to solve for what x is when y is negative 10. Well, in this case here, we actually are going to plug the y value in instead of the x like we did up on top. Okay, so here we're going to start with the y value. So we're going to do negative 10 in here is equal to negative 4x minus 2. Okay, so we just plug the y in there, and now again we do the same thing that we have done before, but now we have multiple operations that we are trying to solve. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do here is we want to get rid of that negative 2. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is get rid of that the minus 2, because it's not attached to the x per se. It's a little bit farther out, and to do that we add 2 to both sides. Okay, so we add 2 to both sides, and this is going to give us, when we add 2 onto the first side here, negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. And on the other side, the 2's are going to be, we got rid of that subtracting 2, so we're just left with negative 4x. Now that we have the negative 4x, see if we can get a different color in here. Okay. To get rid of that negative 4, we need to divide by negative 4, and we divide this side by negative 4. And when we do that, I'm going to move up here now. This side, negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2. The other side, negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1, and so we're just left with 1x, and so x has to be 2 in order for this to work. So when x is 2, y is negative 10, or vice versa. Please work on questions 2 and 3, where you are plugging in a value and solving for that value.